Have you ever heard a voice whisper your name when no one was around? Have you ever had the eerie feeling that something was watching you, even when you were completely alone? This is the story of a doll, an antique, delicate, wide-eyed porcelain doll that didn't just sit still. It whispered secrets, and not the kind you ever want to hear. It all started with a girl named Emily. She was 12 when her grandmother passed away, leaving behind an old Victorian house filled with relics from another era. Among the stacks of faded books and creaky furniture was a box marked simply, "For Emily." Inside, nestled in yellowed tissue paper, was the doll. It was beautiful in a haunting sort of way. Porcelain skin, jet black hair, eyes a little too glassy, a little too human. Her grandmother had always told her that some things were better left untouched. And this doll, Emily would soon learn, was one of them. At first, it was harmless. The doll sat quietly on a shelf in Emily's room, but then the whispers began. Soft, almost imperceptible at first. At night, just before drifting to sleep, Emily would hear her name. Barely a breath, barely a sound. Emily. It sent shivers down her spine. She thought it was a dream, but it wasn't. Soon, the whispers grew louder, and they weren't just saying her name anymore. They were telling her things no one should know. Her mother's lies, her father's secrets, hidden truths buried deep in her family's history. The doll spoke of a sister her mother had lost, a child no one ever mentioned. It whispered about the locked door in the attic, the one Emily was never allowed to open. Every secret it shared was real, every one more terrifying than the last. Emily couldn't ignore it anymore. She tried moving the doll out of her room, locking it in a drawer. But it didn't matter. The whispers found her, no matter where she hid it. Once, she even threw the doll in the trash, hoping that would be the end of it. The next morning, it was sitting on her pillow, clean, untouched, smiling. Desperate, Emily decided to confront the truth. She waited until her parents were asleep and crept up to the attic. The whispers guided her, growing clearer with each step. Behind a dusty trunk, she found a door she had never noticed before, locked. But the doll had whispered where the key was, under a loose floorboard in her grandmother's old room. Inside that hidden room was something Emily will never forget, the body of a young girl, preserved, dressed in faded lace. And next to her an identical doll. The whispers weren't just secrets. They were memories, trapped, echoing from a soul that never left. Her grandmother hadn't given her a gift. She had passed on a curse. Emily tried to tell her parents, but of course they didn't believe her. They thought the trauma of losing her grandmother was making her imagine things, but that night, Emily heard a final whisper. It wasn't coming from the doll on her shelf. It was coming from inside her own mind. Thank you for listening, Emily. Now it's your turn to keep the secrets. The doll hasn't whispered since, because it doesn't need to. Emily does.